Hello, everyone. Everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started here. What's that?
Then I started thinking about how much people in our community do, you know.
Sorry. We're going to go ahead and get started. Sorry. All right, could everyone please stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That up there. Okay. Let's see, for roll call, everyone is present. Could we get approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Communications, recognition. Could we start with Point Elementary? What? Oh. Okay, could we start with the NEA? MNEA. Sorry.
Hello, my name is Dina McKelvey, and I'm the president of Mehlville NEA. And tonight we have two students that we would like to recognize. The first is from Mosaic. So if Alex and his teacher, Mrs. Kling, should please come up to the...
Studio 5 teacher at Mosaic Elementary. Here's what a few teachers and classmates had to say about Alex. Alex Shawnacase is being recognized as MNEA-sponsored Mosaic Student of the Year for many different reasons. Alex is a kind, brave, thoughtful, and intelligent young man who makes everyone feel better just for being around him. From one of his teachers, it was noted that recently Alex helped out in class by offering to incorporate a somewhat outcast student into his songwriting project. He added that Alex has also been an exemplary student throughout his time here. He does so in a polite and unassuming way. Not only teachers, but also his peers recognize how special he is by stating things like, Alex is an amazing student and an amazing friend. He is always helping me when I need it. Alex flowed right in when he came to Mosaic this year. It was like he has been here since 4th grade. I'm really happy for him and hope that it really means something to him to get this award. Nice job, Alex. And from his friend Max, do you have a friend that listens to you and cares about you? I do, and his name is Alex Shawnacase. Alex values the opinion of others and includes everyone. In class, he includes anyone in his group that wants to work with him. He doesn't exclude anyone. Alex stands up for others and tries to help them solve their problems. When our classmates are arguing, Alex tries to help them solve their disagreement. By doing this, he shows that he is someone that has your back and is willing to help you out in any situation. Alex is smart and determined to do well, but he also helps others in class when they need help. Alex works well with others, and I enjoy working with him. Alex is a trustworthy friend because he will keep a secret that means a lot to you. I hope you have a friend that's as special as Alex, and that is why he deserves this award.
And I'm Stephanie Warner. I'm his other Studio 5 teacher. And finally, another one of his classmates states that no wonder Alex got chosen to be Student of the Year. He is always kind to everyone and is very helpful. He always gets his work done on time, and he's positive about himself and never brings anyone else down. He always manages to get his menu done, even though he goes to stretch once a week. He tries his best to make everyone in a good mood around him. I don't think there could have been a better Student of the Year. Good job, Alex. So it is without hesitation that Mrs. Klang and myself and our school support you to receive this award as Student of the Year from Mosaic.
Okay, so I am really excited to also have another opportunity to recognize a student. Could Caden Turner please come up to the microphone? So Caden Turner is a student at Oakville High School, and my husband actually had him in class, but I have not had the pleasure to meet him. But clearly from your class course list, you're a performer and a talented young man. And so he decided to put his video into the California Casualty Create Real Impact Contest. And this is a contest that is through a organization called Impact Teen Drivers, and it is funded through California Casualty. And there were 1,300 students who submitted videos, and Caden's was the best. So that it is on the agenda, so anybody can go and look at the video at a later time. It's only 45 seconds long, but it is a real impact, and I'm very proud to be able to recognize him tonight.
Could we have Point Elementary come up?
Good evening. I am very excited to be here with all of my fifth grade friends here that have completed the 40-book challenge, along with the fifth grade teachers, Mrs. Butchko, Mrs. Otting, Mrs. Cerati, and Mrs. Watercutty. Each year we challenge our fifth grade students to read 40 books in 1 year. These students have gone above and beyond reading those 40 books, and it just helps these students find a love for reading and discover different types of genres. So what different types of books have you read? Different genres, what have you read?
Fantasy,
nonfiction,
informational,
biography, realistic fiction, poetry.
Lots of different genres they've all been exposed to, and they even had the opportunity to read 20 books that they selected on their own. Now they would love to share with you the title of each of their favorite book.
My name is Erin McGee. My favorite book was Sisters.
Hi, my name is Belle Bradshaw, and one of my favorite books was Ordinary Magic.
Hi, my name is Skylar. My favorite books were Belly Up.
Hi, my name is Haley Hughes, and my favorite book was The One and Only Ivan.
Hi, my name is Jenna Vivek. My favorite book was Restart.
My name is Haley Bowles, and my favorite book was Ellie's Story.
Hi, my name is Sasha, and my favorite book was Wish.
Hi, my name is Carter, and my favorite book was Framed.
Hi, my name is Harper. My favorite book is Esperanza Rising.
Hi, my name is Vincent Lee, and my favorite book is Evil Spy School.
Hi, my name is Sammy, and my favorite book is Mustache for Maddie.
Hi, my name is Milo, and my favorite book is Holes.
Hi, my name is Keegan. My favorite book is Ghost.
Hi, I'm Lena. My favorite book is House of Robots.
Hi, my name is Dawson, and my favorite book was Gregor the Overlander.
Hi, my name is Gabriel, and my favorite book was Spy Cat by Peg K. Hart.
Hi, my name is Adel, and my favorite book was Fish in a Tree.
Hi, my name is Beth, and my favorite book was A Series of Unfortunate Events.
Hi, my name is Scarlett Schmidt. My favorite book was Took. I think the 40 book challenge is great because it challenges me and my peers to read 40 different types of books. I think that it benefits every fifth grader to read 40 different books because we get a variety of books to read and we can find new genres that we like.
Great job. Let's give all of our fifth grade students a big round of applause. Congratulations. One last thing I'd like to note, most of these students here right now are upwards towards reading about 80 to 100 books. So not only have they read 40, but they're on to reading more books. Congratulations again, boys and girls.
All right, Mehlville High School. No problem.
Good evening. What I would like to do tonight is show you or paint a picture for you of the students that are on a doorstep to graduation right now. We're going to show you what our graduates look like, and I'm going to let them tell you a little bit about that themselves.
Hi, hello, my name is Adam Fowle. While at Mehlville, I participated in a number of service opportunities through National Honor Society, leadership, exec, and student council. But the highlight for me was a program called the Student of the Year campaign through the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, where I was tasked with raising as much money as possible for treatments and medication to any patients suffering from blood cancers. During the campaign, I worked on a global scale to reach out to any small businesses or corporations that'd be interested in donating my campaign. When I heard about this program, I knew it would be my ethical duty to be a part of this campaign because if I was ever diagnosed with blood cancer, I hoped somebody would do the same thing for me. Because of all these character traits that the Mehlville School District has instilled in me, during my school years, I knew that this campaign was the right thing to do. After high school, I plan to attend college at the University of Missouri-Columbia and would like to attend law school afterwards. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Amina Hassanajic, and I am a senior here. So some of the activities that I've been involved in at Mehlville have been student council, the medical strand of the CAPS program through Afton. I have been involved with Special Olympics Steering Committee, Senior Exec, and National Honor Society. So through all of these, I've been able to hold various leadership positions, which have improved my communication skills, my public speaking, and as well as my professionalism. So I feel like these have really gotten me ready for college. So I'll be attending St. Louis University in the fall, and I'll be majoring in biochemistry, hoping to go on to medical school.
Hello, my name is Harrison Hong. Learning to balance extracurriculars such as Key Club, NHS, Student Council, Exec, String Orchestra, and Gateway to Change with schoolwork helped me continuously put forth my best effort and be persistent in my pursuit of personal growth as a student and individual. The creation of this work ethic allowed me to accomplish much in my years in the Mehlville School District, like becoming a National Merit Scholar and being named to Missouri Scholars 100. After graduating from Mehlville, I plan to attend Arizona State University and major in computer science.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jared Meyer, and my experience in Mehlville has been full of amazing opportunities that have been presented to me through this school. So far, I've been a part of a lot of programs such as show choir, My Path, and a lot of the musicals that we've had as a percussionist. I am going to major in music and audio production at Webster University in the fall, but Mehlville has really let me have the opportunity to learn and grow myself, following my passions and leading my passions into creating an education for myself rather than a traditional learning experience. It has given me the time to network, to create an education, to make myself further and better before I go into college, so I'm at one step ahead of all the other competitions. So once I am out in the workforce, I'm completely ready, and Mehlville has been the force that has prepared me for everything ahead.
Hello, my name is Eddie Mahmatovich, and as many of my peers have said, I have also been in various activities and programs in my past 4 years in Mehlville High School. Two programs that have really stuck out to me and that have really driven me has been robotics and MyPath. Both programs have created an environment where I was given the chance at an early stage to pursue various engineering disciplines. I have been working with universities. I've been given proper resources and proper guidance. I've done many projects, and I just have created a toolbox that will only benefit me in the future, such as working with the St. Louis Gateway Arch Museum and reducing their sun intensity problem. I have been building robots for the past 4 years that have completed various objectives, and currently I'm working on a t-shirt cannon that will promote the district, as well as hopefully bring only increased team spirit, school spirit at various events. After I graduate, I plan to attend Washington University here in St. Louis, and I plan to major in mechanical engineering. Thank you.
We hope the very diverse population of students that you saw also showed you what a diverse amount of offerings that we have at Mehlville High School. We like to say this embodies who we are, and we think that the candidates that you saw tonight really does. So thank you.
Okay, we're up to patron comments, but we didn't have anybody sign up for that. Do we have any standing committee reports?
I had a policy meeting where we went over lots of policies. They will be probably presented to us in June. Some of them still needed some work, and we are not going to meet in May. We are rather going to sort of tidy things up electronically by email with the committee. And then today I had the privilege of attending the State Solo Ensemble Festival all day in Columbia, where Mehlville had a busload of artists, both vocal and musicians, and so did Oakville. We were very well represented there, the whole district. That was really kind of cool. No, I'm not going to brag on my daughter. Brag on everybody.
Me? Oh, yeah. A few things. Just to remind everybody, the MSBA Region 7 meeting is May 1st in University City. The MSBA Leadership Summit is in St. Charles this year, June 8th and 9th, so we don't have to travel. Special School District has selected a new superintendent, Dr. Elizabeth Keenan, who comes from Chicago, where she's worked with a school district of 360,000 students and over 51,000 special education students. I had a chance to go to the NSBA conference and hear Sir Ken Robinson and Michelle Gay, a mother of one of the children killed at Sandy Hook. I'll push notes out on that on my Facebook page and to the board. I went to the State Board of Education meeting here in St. Louis last Tuesday, and we saw control of the city's school district has gone back to the elected board as of July 1st. They were introduced and congratulated, and the SAB, the board that's managed the district for 12 years, was congratulated. Also went to a Partners in Governance conference last week up in Columbia. We had a presentation from a gentleman here in St. Louis, which I may invite to a meeting. His whole premise was, how do you have civil discussions when you're an advocate, especially when you have very concrete ideas that are both valid on both positions? How do you find the middle? And I'll push some notes out on that. The best part of the week was I got to go last night to the Lime Chamber of Commerce, recognizes teachers from the 63125 area. And we had 6 of our buildings were recognized last night. From Beasley, Kristen Otto was recognized. From Beerbaum, Madeline Bush was recognized. From Forder, Dr. Jamie Southers. From Mosaic, Aaron Belosi. From Berkeley, Lucas Alberts. And from Mehlville, Jill Wojciechowski. which I probably mispronounced, so I apologize. But that's it.
Great. Sam?
We have facilities next week, but I haven't had anything since. I was at the policy meeting with Peggy.
Okay, great.
Kevin, I'd like to mention just one thing, that this year the MSBA has foregone the Outstanding Board of Education Award. There won't be one this year, which is really unfortunate since we did such a stellar job, and this year would have been a good year for us to achieve that. But because the scores, the APR scores came in so late, they were not able to put it together. So in addition to changing the location of the Leadership Summit, there also will be no OBOE award. However, we are in line for a governance team award. So we need a quorum at the regional meeting next week.
4 people and an administrator.
4 people and an administrator. So I hope that I'm going, and I'm pretty sure we have 4 people lined up. We just need to know if we have an administrator. Do we have an administrator going? We don't have one yet.
We'll draft somebody.
We'll have to
make
draft
calls.
somebody. Yeah, nobody's looking directly in my eyes. Okay.
Brian's
so
looking
that's
right at
it.
you. I think he's all over this right now.
Yeah. So I just wanted to, I wanted to share those facts with you since I just found these things out yesterday. So, thank you.
Already got masters.
I thought that's what you were getting this week. In May.
I thought I already had it, but I thought I already had it. They sent it to me.
They have to. Okay. I still have to present it to you.
Okay. Next is action items by consent. Section 5. We have a motion? Good. Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Get a motion to approve 5B, C, and D.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. 5A, reading of minutes. Okay.
I just need to abstain.
Just to abstain. Okay. Get a motion to approve 5A.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And 1 abstain. All right. All right, next is our student achievement section. And Dr. Pike, if you would like to come up.
Oh, there we go. Good evening. Hi. Well, you saw the wonderful students I had this evening with me, and that just begins the story of Point Elementary School. It is a wonderful place to be, and if I had to describe our story, I would say it has many pages and chapters, but what I'm most proud of about our story is how each individual child is an individual page in our story, and how we strive each day to individualize their needs to help them be successful. Our mission is the title of our story, clearly supporting the education of the whole child, and our vision is the dedication of our story as we look to create opportunities for learning in everything we do as staff and as students. We are dedicated to our children each and every day. This year, our school improvement goals are centered around supporting our students in the areas of reading, writing, and math, while also creating engaging learning environments for all of our students. In addition to academic goals, we also closely monitor the daily attendance of our students and evaluate the level of engagement happening in our classrooms, focusing on more collaboration between students and teachers. Our historical data that I showed you here on the screen continues to show that our students right now, we are at 440 students, and over the last 4 years, we have seen that our total enrollment at Point has declined. This is due in part to redistricting 2 years ago and a shifting of students within the district. With our 5th grade class of 101 students moving on to Oakville Middle School, Next year, we will most likely see a decrease again in our enrollment for the 1920 school year, since our projected kindergarten numbers currently are not as high as our fifth graders leaving. Right now, we have about 53, 54 kindergartners enrolled, but we may see a few more come in August. Our IEP, ELL, and free and reduced lunch percentages remain similar to what they were in 2017-18. Again, we may see an adjustment to these numbers as our largest class again leaves and moves on to OMS next year. Here are our enrollment details broken down by grade level. As we take a closer look at our grade levels, by IEP, ELL, free and reduced lunch percentages, we can see that our staff is identifying students across all grade levels, ensuring students' needs are being met through collaborative grade level meetings and teaming, and through our student intervention team process that we have revamped over the last couple of years to involve our reading interventionist, our reading specialist, our ELL teacher, our SSD staff, and our grade level teams. And we meet every 2 weeks and in a cohesive group and look at student data. There is our historical attendance. Our attendance consistently averages at 96%. This is a point of pride for our students and our staff. We want our students to love and want to come to school each and every day. We share this average monthly attendance with our community on our front wall as families enter our building. And I've shown you a picture of that, but I will show it to you again of what our front wall looks like. When students are unable to attend school, we are diligent in reaching out to families, making sure we know why they are not in attendance. And in some cases, when necessary, we help families develop a plan to come to school if we feel that there is a pattern of absenteeism forming. This is our current breakdown of 90-90. And right now, we have identified each of those students that are not meeting that 90-90 or even in that middle group, helping them develop that plan. Our point attendance patterns, our 5 lowest attendance days this year occurred right before, right after a holiday, coincidentally, and we recognize this as a staff, and our building leadership team continues to look for ways to revamp those days to help increase student attendance. And in actuality, our last day of school happens to be on a Tuesday after Memorial Day, and that actually is going to be our field day. So we have really partnered with our building leadership team and our parents to identify that we need our kids at school every day that school's in session. So portrait of a graduate, what does that look like at Point? It's evident in our classroom each day, but we currently have an additional 586 students involved in a clever activity, whether before school, during school, or after school. We held a superhero STEAM night where students were able to be creative and critical thinkers. These students showed their persistence as each student and family made a safe flight designed for an egg to fall safely from breaking from approximately 15 to 20 feet in the air. And I climbed the ladder, and then I dropped the egg, and I'm happy to report that all of those eggs fell safely to the ground. They did a great job creating those projects. They were very creative. Kids Trivia creates the opportunities for students to work together with their teammates, answering questions and playing in real-life kid-friendly trivia. This is for our 3rd through 5th grade students, and it's a great map prep, exciting time that we do right around this spring point of time, and they love that. We also did a teaming with our fine arts group, our specialist team, where we brought the arts alive this year, and we brought in all of these specialists to come in and visit our kids and we had professional golfers come in, we have an artist come in that built a real life wooden eagle that now sits in our courtyard. So again, we are doing our due diligence to bring the arts alive for our kids and really make fun and engaging learning experiences for them. And this is us. When you walk in, this is how you are greeted at Point Elementary School. It is big, bold, and inviting. We want you to feel welcome here. On one side, you have our mission, our vision, and our updated reading and math performance that we celebrate all year long. In addition to academics, we update our monthly attendance percentage on this board as well. On the other side is what we call our happening board. We use this board for whatever is relevant and school-wide at the time. Currently, Map Man has taken over that board. Our 5th grade leaders voted on this theme this year, and sports won. Point Elementary will be knocking MAP out of the park. You will see Map Man everywhere giving the supporting message and cheering the students on as they prepare to take on MAP. And continuous classroom improvement, our focus is in year 1, creating an engaging community of goal setters that are reflective and meaningful for all of our students from kindergarten to 5th grade. Our primary focus this year has been on the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycles that you've heard about in most of the elementary settings. Led by teachers and school-wide, school-wide PDSA cycles, we call them Dr. Pike's challenges. We make them fun and meaningful for the kids, but we also want them to know that it's a learning experience, whether we're talking about academics or behavior. Now we're going to talk just a little bit about our achievement. These next several slides show our MAP achievement compared to the state average. Several things happened this year when we received our MAP scores. Teachers set goals with their students in both ELA and math. Teachers utilized strategy groups as necessary for those students and identified needs, any student that needed additional interventions, to ensure we were meeting those needs in both ELA and math. And as a staff, we continuously monitor their progress and MAP growth year after year in our building's database. In 2017-18, our third grade students are performing above the state average in both ELA and math. Our fourth grade, it is a point of pride for fourth grade that overall in their continued achievement well above the state average. More specifically in math, our students performed 30.8% higher than the state average, with 76.7% of our fourth grade students proficient and advanced in math. One point of pride for fifth grade teachers is that they used pre and post assessments to place students in flexible math grouping to address individual student needs in math. In 2017-18, our fifth grade students are performing well above the state average in both ELA and math as well. When we look at actually this is the longitudinal map data that showed our third, fourth, and fifth grade students for the class of 2018, we were able to see trends in how our students performed moving from each of those in one particular cohort. I will tell you that this is something that we are very excited to do at Point now. We have the capability to do this. This is just one snapshot of that. And we are now following students through being able to make projections for them, to be able to look at how things move together, and to be able to help students make individualized goals, along with teachers doing that as well. And our subgroup achievement. Understanding that these are 2017-18 scores, Point teachers began implementing components of the math workshop model in their classroom last spring and continued this approach this school year, where students receive math instruction in a mini-lesson format and then move to math centers or rotations that engage students in meaningful activities that are aligned to the standard or skill that they need more practice in to master. In 2017-18, our IEP, ELO, and free and reduced students are performing above the state average in both ELA and math. And what does this look like when we talk about reading levels? As a staff, we monitor our students' reading level and growth over the course of a year. We track reading levels of students every 6 weeks in grade level teams and dissect what students should be doing with each reading level to ensure that our students are mastering those levels before moving on to the next one. This process is a point of pride at Point, and the teachers are always willing to continue to dig deeper into every area of reading with their students. We also continue to look at engagement, and this is what our engagement looks like at Point. I'm consistently looking at what their engagement is with their students, and it is always engaging and meaningful lessons, whether the kids are talking, they're leading that instruction, or we are looking at how we can continue that depth of knowledge and increasing that higher levels of depth of knowledge. And our MasteryConnect data, we continue to look at the winter benchmark now compared to the pre-test, and we will again monitor that in the spring as well. This is our kindergarten and first growth in math. Here's our second grade data from 7% in the pre-test to 32% in the spring. And I would like to note that we not only look at these overall scores, but we break down these scores to individual students to get a better idea of where they're doing well, but also where students might be struggling on particular standards and skills. And for third grade, math and ELA, and with this being a true benchmark, we understand that we want to see continued growth all the way through as we approach May. And these are also on our board out front so that we also have an indication of how our students are growing. And fourth grade. This shows our 4th grade growth in ELA. 4th grade also piloted the new iReady assessment component that we will have access to next year. And so we have kind of compared how our students are doing on MasteryConnect with how they're doing in iReady, and we also are beginning to dissect those two to really look at that. Even though this is a benchmark and that's more diagnostics, but we are looking at the two just to use for both sense of growth. And 5th grade. This has also helped us be able to begin to put these students into flexible math groupings as well. So what does this mean for Point? Where are our next steps? Where are we going? I will tell you that our next steps at Point, we are excited to move into year 2 of CCI. This goal setting not just occurs for students, but it occurs for staff as well. We are a building of learners, and that is our vision at Point, is building learners of tomorrow. And with this growth mindset, it does allow us to continue to move forward. We understand that we are achieving, but we also understand that to continue to get our kids to achieve, we have to be willing to keep growing. And so what does that look like for us? That we look at where we are, and how we can continue to help our students be better. And we look at those individual kids each and every day. We are also purchasing and implementing Second Step, which is a school-wide social emotional learning program that all of our students and staff will benefit from in the classroom. This is a tier 1, and all of our teachers have empowered and embraced this idea that we have to help our kids learn about social emotional regulation. What does that look like? But we have to teach it. And so how can we teach it? By being a part of it. And they have embraced that. Our character education team researched what programs would be a best fit, and that is the one we landed on. And we are all going to embrace that next year for the whole child. And we are continuing to build a systematic data collection system that allows us to look at the whole child and make individualized decisions based on their academic, social, emotional, and behavioral needs. And we're constantly looking for ways to engage our students in school. We want every student to love school and understand that a huge component of that is figuring out each student's interests and building on those interests. And that's our story. Thank you.
Thank you. Any board questions?
Can I ask a question? Thank you. Thank you so much. Your presentation was incredible. I love your pictures, and I love your chalkboard wall in the front. Really cool. Can you help me understand what it would look like for those students that when we're looking at your reading levels, and there are those students that are in that beginning to learn still? What does it look like for them as far as the intervention and how you guys work that with those students in particular to help them?
So some of those students either are identified already and what I would say is if they're beginning to learn, we've identified those students as needing additional interventions. So they're working with either our SSD support or my friend Cynthia Biggs back there. She is our reading specialist and being provided those additional supports in reading to make sure that we've identified them. And we don't miss a beat. So either the classroom teachers are meeting, and then our student intervention process meets regularly to make sure that if we feel like a student is behind in reading, that we are not waiting until a grade level meeting to identify those students. They do not have to wait to a grade level meeting to bring a concern. They can do that beforehand. So if we feel any student is behind, then we identify, we set goals for that student, and then we're always continuously following up, making sure that we've addressed it. And I will tell you what we found is if we are trying one intervention, and I know Ms. Biggs will speak to this, if we try one intervention and it's not working, then we need to try a different one. Because obviously that's not working for that child.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions?
What else?
Yes.
Would you talk a little bit about co-teaching with SSD and your language specialists, how they work together?
So right now, last year we had more of an opportunity for co-teaching to exist in our SSD classrooms, and I will tell you it's purely because of scheduling sometimes, and that is how it works, where it does allow for more flexibility in the schedule. This year, and last year, our ELL teacher has had the ability to do that, and I know I answered that question for you, and that has been very powerful. Last year, we had more of a flexible schedule where our SSD staff was doing more of that co-teaching model, and it really does create that cohesive ability between the classroom teacher and the SSD or ELL teacher where they can have that experience or that exposure to what is happening in the everyday classroom. Does that always get to happen? No, but when it can, we do embrace it, and we do it every chance we get. So again, does that fall on me somewhat? When we develop the schedule, when we're about to have placement. So we look at all of that. And again, we have to be proactive rather than reactive. So a lot of that is just trying to do whatever we can on the front end to help us plan better for those types of environments for kids to help them be most successful.
What else? One quick thing I want to say, complimentary, just across the district, we focused on ELL a lot in the last 2-3 years, and we focused on math a lot within the last 2 years. And at Point, you've kind of got a little bit different or better scenario from a demographics aspect, but when you look at that as a starting point, there's been this improvement that's been going on, and you can see that clearly in your data. Your 4th grade math continued to go up even though the state averages went down, so you increased that gain that you had over the state. You also had ELL, your math ELL I believe was actually higher than the school as a whole, so those areas obviously you're really doing a good job within your school, and the district support seems to be really paying off there, so compliments to everybody on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Level high.
I get to raise this up this time. All right. Thanks for having us here. Got my excellent team behind me, so want to start out with talking about high levels of learning for all. And that just doesn't mean our kids, that also means our teachers and our present staff who continue to educate themselves. We're also going to be talking about a lot of things tonight, and our school improvement plan is a big part of that. With such a large school, there are just too many things to hit on, but we're going to talk about certain areas, and I'm going to let the guys take that away right now.
So the first thing we're going to talk about is our enrollment data. If you look at the green line there, it kind of shows the point of redistricting. We were 1,800 to 2,000 over the years. Because of redistricting and other things, we're down to about 1,530 kids right now. So our total enrollment's going down, but we wanted to highlight free and reduced lunch, IEP, and EL students, which the EL population continues to increase for us. And we see those as, challenges and opportunities as we move forward. So if you look a little deeper into the EL enrollment, we see that basically we've traditionally had our Bosnian population. And you look at all the other little pieces of the pie, 22 different languages here at Mehlville. And those pieces of the pie, the smaller pieces, are getting bigger. And those are creating more difficult challenges for our school to try to adapt to these different languages and not just deal with the Bosnian population that we've dealt with. And we think we've done a great job helping those kids. We're getting more and more opportunities in the classroom to do co-teaching and things like that to help these kids basically get their EL, the language improvement as we move forward. So there's been an evolution of what our EL students look like, and most of our new students that we get are of some of that diversity, and we're basically, those new enrollees are looking very diverse, and there may be gaps in their education and things like that. One of the greatest things we do here at Mehlville is called Global Coffee House, which we did last month. It is an opportunity for these kids to basically highlight their culture, basically their language. They show dance, food, everything about their culture. They present it. It's a great opportunity for our teachers and our students to come and see all the different cultures and diversity we have at Mehlville, and we really try to embrace that and learn from each other in that way. So, thank you.
So one of the pieces of data that we like to also look at is our attendance data. It's something that we look at every single day, quite honestly, and then on a weekly level, and then typically looking at long-term data 3 to 4 times per semester. We try and pare it down as much as we can, and oftentimes Dr. Pike shared the student-by-student data. Oftentimes we look at percentages, and it doesn't do the attendance question justice to look at the percentages, because when you look at the students that are struggling to get to school, especially at the high school level, the stories are so different. Social and emotional needs that we are dealing with every minute, literally, and difficulties at home, struggling in school, students not feeling like they can be successful here. So it truly is a student-by-student issue, and so what that means for us, for our counseling staff, for our teachers, who serve as advisors to these students as well with our TAP program, it's about finding an individualized program for that kid that excites them about coming to school. It was an interesting comparison to have the Point Elementary students, and Dr. Point highlighted it about the students being excited about coming to school. It presents a different challenge at the high school level. So we have to embrace that challenge as well. So some of the programs some of our students talked about today, our best and brightest exemplify that. It's trying to find a way to reach out to these students who are struggling with getting to school, to get them excited about waking up and finding a way to get here every day.
A few other pieces of data that we wanted to share. One is our ACT, and if you look at that longitudinally over the last several years, one point that we're all aware of is the drop in our scores in 2016 when the test was administered to our entire junior class. And that practice, even though it's not a state initiative, we, as you guys decided and we agreed with, was still important for our junior population as a whole. So something that we just went through yesterday on the early release day and administered that test to our junior class. Over the last 3 years, we've been pretty steady with small marginal upticks. And one thing that we're trying to do to help our kids be better prepared is be more intentional with our supports outside of just the general education classroom that we see typically in our English 3 and our geometry specifically as those kids are preparing for that test that year. But then also looking at some structured supports during our TAP class and kind of some repurposing of staff roles for next year to kind of be more intentional with how kids are preparing. And one of those pieces will be looking at how often they take the test. One of the things that we know is exposure to the test leads to increased scores, as you can see by our current senior class and the students that have taken it 2 or 3 times and the gains that we see with that. Another piece of data that we'll look at is our EOC scores in our 4 tested areas. One area that is a point of pride for us is our government scores. You can see in 2018 the large jump in our advanced and proficient scores, and that was partially due to the realignment of the course into the junior level where the content was more appropriate for our students. That was working with our curriculum department and again, not just redesigning the curriculum, but also realigning it in our sequence. Math and English, you notice a little bit of a decline last year after the new test came in 2017, so the first year of data there in 2018, so that's something that we're really aware of moving forward and trying to look at, again, what are our instructional practices that we need to focus on to get those scores back to where they were prior to that in 2015 and 2016 and continue to grow from those scores even. One example in math, we've been working this year with Lindsay Roy as we do curriculum realignment, rewriting, is looking at our instructional practices. One thing that we see in math quite often is retention and students that do great in that one individual unit, but then are they retaining it at the end of the semester? Are they retaining it moving from Algebra 1 to Algebra 2? So I know the math department's one that I work with right now, and our teachers have really enjoyed working with Lindsay and some of the strategies that she's promoting that they're going to be implementing next year to try to, again, help with that retainment.
Something else that we're trying to do along with our EOC scores is to close that gap of the subgroups, and so something that we're trying for the students that receive IEP or have IEPs is we're looking at formatting our special education classes or our foundations level classes where we're really trying to break down the data to attack the specific gaps of students, to have data-driven, flexible grouping in our classrooms so that way we can hopefully close those gaps quicker and that way get the students quicker exposure to the general education curriculum. And then we're also, looking at creating the opportunities for collaboration through that, through professional development opportunities that we've had and creating your own kind of professional development. We've been able to have teachers work together, special education and general education, in all various aspects. And then also in creating the master schedule for next year, we've looked at common plan times, PLC times, to where teachers, special education and general education can sit down and really start to problem solve specific student issues and work on those specific areas to try to close some of those gaps. The last piece that we're looking forward to next year is working with the Panorama pieces and trying to find and solve some of those social emotional needs of all students across the building.
So one of our favorite pieces of data, as we said earlier, especially at this time of year, is to kind of look back at what our students have been able to take advantage of, the opportunities we continue to expand on and provide. So you can see some numbers of programs. We didn't put the year-to-year data, but I can tell you the increases are across the board in all of those programs. The online learning, moving that into the high schools has allowed us a great deal of flexibility. Just about all the students that were up here have taken advantage of an online class. One, because they know a lot of their universities are now requiring them that exposure, but two, it allowed them to pursue coursework on their own time, allowing them more time here to work with instructors in areas of interest. So a lot of different opportunities there. You've heard from Amina in the CAPS program. The students don't do a good enough job of bragging on themselves sometimes, but she's done great work there with that experiential learning, and she truly is going to be ahead of the game when she moves into our program at SLU next year. My path conversations with kids are some of my favorite, to be honest with you, and I wish I could have walked all of them up here. But if you're interested, in just about a week and a half, they're going to have their capstone presentations in the auditorium. Very much encourage you to come hear those. Maybe Jared will play the drums, I don't know. But we had just a great opportunity for students to pursue their passions, and we saw where those have become contagious, and other students are seeing students pursue those opportunities. Universities are excited about us doing them because a lot of our partnerships are there, local businesses as well. South Tech continues to be a great opportunity for our kids as well. We just had our awards banquet with them in Special School District. We had a number of students receive the Tops at Tech honors and everything from auto mechanics to vet tech, and students pursuing collegiate and career programs there. And then with Special School District, our community-based vocational instructional program continues to be an asset. One of the ones that is newer that we're exceptionally excited about is at Mercy South, where over the last 2 or 3 years, we've had students who have rolled straight from that particular program into a full-time job. So the focus for us and what we're excited about seeing with growth moving forward is the continued career connections that we have. We're working on it with our own professional development as an administrative team and moving our building towards that direction, as well as, and Andy alluded to it briefly there, our students' personalized learning is spreading to our teachers, where we had yesterday a learning summit, if you saw on social media, here where teachers shared their year-long learning and pushing forward with that on their own personalized interests and working with their colleagues on helping to make the learning experience better here at Mehlville.
So we hope our story tells some of the deficits that we have and challenges, but also all the unique opportunities that we have to offer here at Mehlville. We're very, very proud of that, and I think our data shows our ups and our downs. And another thing that I would like to have the opportunity to invite you to is our Fine Arts Showcase that's going to be up here on Saturday from 1 to 4. And it's at various times. You can see the times on the side, but we will have various acts performing during Saturday. So thank you.
Do I have any questions?
I have one question and a comment. Andy, you brought up in a week and a half, you guys have another event?
Yes, I can tell you the exact date. It is a week from Tuesday, May 7th, I believe it is. Yes. And start time, I believe, is 6 o'clock, but I can get that to you. 5:30.
5:30?
Thank you, Dr. Gaines.
We have a listening session.
That's our listening session.
Do we really?
Okay. Sorry. All right. And then the other thing I just wanted to say was, Jason, I'm really glad you brought up the ACTs, and we've gotten criticized over our ACT scores a little bit over this past year, but you brought up a good point, is that what most don't know is that in 2016, we administered this to juniors as well. And then after the state decided they weren't going to pay for it anymore, we felt that it was important enough for us to continue paying for that. And with that, we are continuing to test those kids. We could do the easy thing and stop testing them if our only goal was to have a higher score. So I appreciate everything you guys are doing. I'm really glad you brought that up and it was in this information.
Anyone else?
I have a comment. I work at Nazareth, so I get to work with the kids every day in the community-based vocational instruction program. And they really are a joy to have around. The residents look forward to them being there. And once they leave the building, there is like a quietness because they're not there, you know. They really do, they do a lot of really good work. And I think a few of them actually do roll into permanent jobs at the end. I can think of one in particular that has come from that program. And I wish I could remember his name, and I wrote it down, and then I forgot my phone. But one of the students donated to Nazareth a growth tower, which is a hydroponic tower that we can put in the hallway so that everyone can enjoy a garden experience, because so many of our residents aren't going outside anymore. It's just too cumbersome to get them out there. They don't enjoy that, but they do enjoy this tower, and it was donated by a Mehlville student. So I wanted to acknowledge that. I took a picture of it, and I forgot it, but I'll try to remember it next time. But it's just want to throw out how wonderful that program is.
So I have two things. One is, unfortunately, the night of your MyPath presentations, I believe we have a listening session. So I will tell you all, we probably aren't going to make it. So if you have any other times when they're going to present to other people, if you'd let us know, maybe some of us can stop by. And the second thing is, I would like to hear, having served on the scheduling committee with Jason and Andy, what's going on with your tap time at Mehlville? What have you done to change things? And I'd just like to hear what it is, because I know what Oakville is because I have a daughter there. So if somebody could tell us.
I think that's something that we constantly have been reviewing. In the 12 years that I've been at the building, it's kind of just the running comment of it. We're never done with TAP, trying to figure out how to really maximize what we can do with it. And while we have some of those standard, like universal practices that we always do, we're constantly trying to review how to get the most out of that for each and every kid. Because we know that we have a large group that maximize it in 90 minutes every other day. They're working their fingers to the bone. And we have other kids that use some of it, and it just that percentage continues to go across the board. So we have a group of teachers right now that have been spending a lot of time this spring really kind of trying to identify how can we improve it? How can we make sure that every kid is maximizing their time? One thing that they have done is gone over and looked at Oakville's tier model and looked at, again, how can we impact certain kids that are struggling academically and kind of increase their work output during TAPS. That's one thing that we're looking at adopting from them. We talked about the ACT and trying to increase the support. So repurposing 2 of our staff roles right now that currently have had traditional TAP experiences where they've had a TAP that they've worked with for 4 years and then tried to do some ACT support kind of on the side in addition to that. And we just kind of made the decision that we're not getting as much out of that because they're trying to do 2 things at once. And how can they really look at some data specifically to identify specific kids and help in specific areas? Right now, the 2 teachers in particular that are kind of tasked with that next year have been to a couple different conferences over the last 2 years to kind of gain some specific tips and tricks on how to study and prepare, as well as looking at the content that's involved. And what they're going to do, kind of similar to that tier program at Oakville, instead of having kids moving in and out that may be struggling academically, need a little additional support in a traditional classroom, they're going to be looking at identifying kids that need specific support, maybe in one specific subset of the test. I know I talked with a couple of my juniors earlier this spring that took the test, I believe it was in February, did extremely well in math and science, did well in English, but their reading score really pulled their overall composite down about 2 points. So looking at, again, how do we provide them support in that specific area so they feel more confident when they go back in and take that test a second time. So they're going to identify some students and then throughout the course of the semester bring in different groups and kind of do that structured support and preparation so that those kids could take it a second or a third time and increase that score hopefully.
But Peggy, I would like to say Oakville did come over and visit because we already did have some tiered systems in each of our classes. We had identified students and it was a smaller TAP, and those kids were in there making sure that they, the teachers were forming that relationship and watching and making sure that they were guiding them to the best of their ability. And our special ed teachers have been dispersed throughout our TAPs, and there are many learning labs that go on down here in the library that kids go and visit. We also have a math academic lab that we've had for the last couple of years. So those are things that are currently going on here in our TAPs.
Right, great. Yeah, my daughter and I just had a long conversation on the way down to Columbia this morning, and you know, it's still a hot topic, I think, that we all need to discuss. And you know, what kids are just completely wasting that time, what kids really need it, if you don't have it, when do kids get help, you know, all those things. And so, you know, she's almost bipolar when she tells me about it, like on one hand it's this, and on one hand, and I'm like, well, make up my mind, you know. So, you know, I wish there was the perfect answer, but our schools are so large and so diverse at every level that I don't know how you.
That's the thing, it's trying to identify, like when Andy talked about our attendance and looking at each individual kid and designing like that program that's best for them. One thing that we have done is we have some kids that don't have a traditional TAP, as it's been the last 20 years, that maybe are taking an online class right now because they're able to manage their classes on their own time, or they want to try to get another course credit taken care of, so they are able to take a PLL class here down in our PLL room behind us, so they don't have a traditional TAP. We also have specific classes like our AP Chem class, which is probably one of our most challenging classes that we offer, and it's some of our best and brightest kids, but they need additional time outside of that classroom, and some need more than others. So looking at what's the word, Greg? Recitation? It's a science word that we've learned a little bit more about this year, having this recitation hour for our AP Chem kids to come in and get that additional support outside of the classroom. So some of it, again, more structured time for a specific class, and then looking at those individual students and trying to figure out how to maximize their time out of that, working with individual teachers or with principals and counselors.
Great. I mean, the big thing we want to hear is that the time is not just simply being wasted, which is, you know, I walked into the Commons last Friday and at Oakville, and I'm like, you're at AMT, you better act like you're busy because Dr. Gaines is in the building. So thank you.
Anyone else? Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
On to Panorama Report. All right.
Good evening. First, I just want to say thank you to the board and to Dr. Gaines for allowing us the opportunity to present on where we are with some social emotional learning implementation this year. And I'm going to turn over to the driving forces behind the work that we're doing in Mehlville, and that is Celie Rodman and Kevin Hazel from Panorama Education. They were here doing professional development with K-8 building leaders and teacher leaders yesterday, so they were able to stick in town since we had a board meeting and talk to you. So I'm going to turn it over to them. Thanks.
Great. Hi, thank you so much for having us here tonight. My name's Kevin Hazel. I'm the account manager working with Mehlville School District to bring Panorama's work to life within the district. And Celie.
And I'm Celie. I am on the teaching and learning team at Panorama, and I've had the privilege of coming to Mehlville twice in the last 6 months to work with school leaders to understand the data and learn how to take meaningful action on it.
So tonight we're excited to share with you some of the progress we've made within Mehlville School District to date, and then also shed some light on the work that we're doing more broadly, nationally, in the fields of social emotional learning. So to tell you a little bit about Panorama Education, we are a team of former educators working to really help districts collect, analyze, and act on data. A core of what we do is elevating student voice and stakeholder voice. In this case, how students are feeling about their social emotional skills and capabilities. So core to our mission is radically improving student outcomes, and we have a suite of product offerings that help collect the data needed to make decisions around supporting the whole child. Our partnership with Mehlville is focused on social emotional learning and really putting metrics behind the work that is already being done, like we just saw with Point Elementary, investing in the second step curriculum.
And when we're talking about social emotional learning, we're talking about all of the really important qualities that our students are cultivating while they're at school that we know are crucial for their academic success and for their success beyond school. So this is an image that we love to use during our workshops, which highlights so many of the things that we know to be really important to support our students in developing over time, but aren't traditionally measured by tests. So here's the definition of social emotional learning as defined by CASEL, which is the leading organization in thought and research in social emotional learning alongside academics. This definition is the core to our work, and we work with our research team to measure social emotional learning skills, competencies, perspectives of students' skills, of their own skills, and also of their environment that helps to support those skills. Because we know if a student feels like they belong in school, they're much more likely to engage in social emotional learning growth. And so, as Kevin mentioned, in Mehlville, we're having students reflect on their own skills and competencies. We're having them reflect on their environment, so whether they feel like they belong or are engaged in school. And because teachers are an essential role in students' development, we're also having teachers reflect on their own skills and competencies so that school leaders are able to better support teachers as they support students. So in addition to creating our surveys through a rigorous process, our research team has also recently been looking into the correlations between social emotional learning and other academic indicators. So here's a graph that our research team put together after digging into the question of how does social emotional learning change by grade level. Here we can see 4 different social emotional learning competencies and the aggregate topic score and how that changes by grade level. So we can see that there's the highest correlation in elementary school. Maybe not surprisingly, those scores drop in middle school, and then they start to pick back up in high school. We also looked into the correlation between social emotional learning and traditional education metrics. So here, what I'll first draw your attention to is the fact that GPA, behavior, assessments, and attendance all show positive correlations with social emotional learning. For many of these indicators, the correlations peak in middle school. And with attendance, we know that in high school, it's peaking, the correlation peaks there because students have more agency over their coming to school. So here are some data points that were put together by CASEL after doing a meta-analysis of over 200 studies. And they found that students who are involved in social emotional learning programs saw 13% in academic gains, improved classroom behavior and stress management, and an 11-to-1 return on investment. So for every $1 spent on social emotional learning programs, schools and organizations saw an $11 return on investment. In other words, they didn't have to spend as much money on reactionary funding and resources.
Great. So here's a look at the work that we've done to date with Mehlville, working across all of your elementary and middle schools to really build the foundation of what putting metrics behind social emotional learning programming really looks like. We've been working, we consider SEL as really a process and around continuous improvement. And we're really excited about the work and the things that we were seeing come to life yesterday as folks were really making sense of data using our different levels of comparison. So they're not just looking at how students in their schools are performing, they're looking at how their students are performing compared to the district, compared to our national data set. Panorama works with over 9,000 school districts across the country and over 10 million students. That's about 20% of students K through 12 nationwide. So by giving this level of comparison, folks are really able to make sense of data and really target clear interventions for how they can move the needle. With this said, we know that social emotional learning is brought to life in different ways in every district, every school, and every classroom. What might work well in one doesn't necessarily work perfectly in another. And this work, putting metrics behind this, helps to really bring these interventions and continue what works within the context of the school itself. And looking forward to 2019-20 school year, we're so excited to expand this work across the whole district. So we built a foundation in elementary and middle schools, and we're so excited to bring that to the high schools next year. Here, as Celie mentioned earlier, teachers are fundamental to what we're doing here, and really making sure that we're elevating their voice and making sure that they feel supported in how they're rolling out this STL programming. Here, looking at how folks felt about professional learning, about social emotional learning, from the fall administration to the spring administration, we saw a 4 percentage point increase about how folks felt they were being supported by their school leaders and district leaders. Which leads us to say, what did this look like this year in Mehlville? We ran 2 different measurements, one in the fall and one in the spring. We ran 2 workshops across elementary and middle schools as well. First, really grounding and creating action plans for how we're going to move the needle over the course of the school year. And yesterday, we were digging into these results and looking at change over time, how folks are moving up the national data set comparisons. And we're really excited to build on this next year. So we just want to thank you for having us, inviting us here tonight. We're so excited to continue this journey together. And please don't hesitate to reach out. And we want to give a special thank you to Adam Smith and Brian Smith for really championing this work and being incredible partners.
The Smith brothers again.
They're in everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone have any? Good. All right. Appreciate it. Yeah. All right. We're up to facilities. The fun part.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Start with asphalt, seal and stripe, and some remove and replace. We solicited bids for this, and we had 3 bids. As you can see in our consultant's recommendations, the lowest bid did not complete their bid. They had a few areas they did not put on their bid. So our consultant and I decided to put them down as an incomplete bid and go with the second lowest bid. Any questions on that?
Have we used Royal Construction?
Yes, we've used them the last 6 years.
So same company, okay.
Yes, same company. Yes. Yes, they're doing great work, and by now they know how our routine works, and they work well with our bus garage and working with Dan over there getting the buses out and making that all work. The whole Mehlville campus is a tough project to do, and they do a good job on it. So.
Didn't they come in lower before simply because they knew the square footage that we had? So
Correct.
A lot of them came in a lot higher, just not knowing.
Correct.
So the same company.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And if you noticed on the bid, I believe it was, they always come in, I think it was PLM, parking lot maintenance. Yeah, PLM. They always come in, that's why you said that they're like 100,000 over our lowest bid, but they would, I don't know why, but they always bid it, but they always come in super high. So I'd like to move to approve the lowest qualified bid submitted by Royal Construction in the amount of $169,101.86, including contingency and professional fees.
We need a board member to actually.
Yeah, I'll say it. Move to approve the lowest qualified bid submitted by Royal Construction in the amount of $169,101.86.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right, on to the next one.
All right, thank you. We also solicited bids for roofing for Oakville Senior High over the Commons area and Beerbaum Elementary, which would be almost the entire school except for over the gym, part of the cafe that was, I believe, installed in 2003, so it's a few years away from replacement. And we had 5 bids, and Beatty Roofing came in the lowest, and we used them back in, I believe, 2006 on on Forder, and they did a good job. So I would like to move to approve the lowest qualified bid submitted by Beatty Construction in the amount of $725,242, including contingency and professional fees. And that also does include over at Oakville Senior the new skylights, those large skylights that are, so that those will be replaced as well.
Who did we use last year?
Last year was Geisler Roofing.
Were we happy with their work or not?
I was, but we had a lot of issues with completing the,
Okay, I thought we had some
getting the project closed out, which I just did about 3 weeks ago.
I don't mind going with the lowest if they're the better, but if higher is going to
Sure,
give us
I
a
agree.
product and better service, I'm fine with that too. So.
Move to approve the lowest qualified bid submitted by Bade Roofing in the amount of $725,242, including contingency and professional fees.
I'll second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right, next one.
Thank you. Consider bid for replacement transportation department fencing. Again, we solicited bids. We had 2 bids come in, and the lowest bid came in with, it was Robinson Fence out of Springfield, Missouri. And we did question Robinson Fence, sent them a questionnaire, and everything came back good. We checked the references, and had no issues with their references. So the old fence is just, I mean, you've probably all seen it, it's in bad shape. So the new replacement will be an 8-foot fence with including the gates and the sliding gate as well. So I'd like to move forward with lowest qualified bid submitted by Robinson Fence Company in the amount of $78,532, including contingency and professional fees.
Mike, do they have an office here in St. Louis? I mean, this.
They don't, but they do. They're doing a lot. They do a lot of work in St. Louis. You would think they would, because they got right now they got 6 projects going on in St. Louis, and there are some of them are larger projects for Parks Department and St. Louis County as well.
I say.
How long are
They're a
they
lot cheaper than than the other one. No.
Right. Excuse me.
How long are they estimating the project's going to take?
About 3 weeks.
So it's not horrible.
Hit it.
Go for it.
Move to approve the lowest qualified bid submitted by Robinson Fence Company in the amount of $78,532, including contingency and professional fees.
Second?
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion carries 7-0. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Marshall's got me worried with the red tie.
I wore a red tie too. I knew what he was going to do.
Yeah, we don't like the red tie.
Okay, why the red tie?
You'll see very shortly, the black shirt stands for the operating gain, which obviously covers more territory, and the red tie stands for the total budget, which is a little bit in the red because of the non-operating. So the most important thing is operating is a lot more important than the non-operating. So that's what the colors are.
All right, there's even a little black in that tie too, so.
There you go.
Great.
I think it's kind of looks like a spotted pass to me.
All right, so I know you want to keep moving, so we get to the highlights. I passed out a preliminary budget hard copy that you can flip through as you like. There's a lot of detail pages there. But my slides tonight are really going to represent Section 2 cash flow in there, and it's page 1 the budget overview. So that's what all the slides here are really going to refer to. They're just that one page in your packet. So right now, we're putting together the budget. It's not in concrete. It's a fluid document. It can change every day. We're getting down to where we've really narrowed it down, and it shouldn't be changing too significantly from here on out, but it will change a little bit, before we get to the final. So where we stand right now is the cash reserve percentage. This year, we're forecasting 28.9, budget 27.9. It's going to be down 1%, but that's really not much of a change. We do show an operating fund gain right now of $98,000 this next year. That's basically break even. That'll change a little bit as we continue to tweak things. The non-operating loss of $381 is what really puts our total budget into $283. And sometimes it's just nice to have a visual, and that's all joking aside, that's sort of why I try to drive home these points that the most important thing is the operating part, and that's a gain, so that's a good thing. Non-operating, as we've talked many times, for instance, our COP fund, we've collected $5 to $7 million in advance of that. That's accumulated just in the timing of payments, and now we're going to be paying that down. So, the non-operating, it just means that we've saved money in the past, and now we're spending it. So the fact that total budget shows a minus 283, that is not a red flag. It's not a big deal. The operating gain of 98, that's what we really want to key on. Next thing is when we sort of dive into the details below that is starting off with revenue. If we look at where we stand right now, our revenue projects out to be an increase of 1.8%. This is a reassessment year. The last couple of reassessment years, our revenue increase has been right at that same level. So it's very consistent with the last two reassessment years. It also compares with the last 10-year trend. If you exclude the unusual Prop R amount, the last 10-year trend is an average of about 1.45%. So basically, this is a decent year of 1.8% growth. When you look on the expense side, the operating expenses, salaries down through service supplies, the subtotal there shows an increase of 2.1%. And then our total expense of 2.3%, that compares with the 10-year trend of like 2.35%. So we're really a little bit underneath. If you look at the operating expense portion, we're really underneath slightly the 10-year trend. So that's favorable as well. I think also if you just look at the last 6 years, we've only had, 4 out of those 6 years, we've had expense increases greater, 3% or greater. And I think, we've been playing catch up for a number of years. So that's, once again, it just drives home. It's a favorable expense increase this year in this year's budget. It also shows when you just look at the revenue and the expense, 1.8% growth in revenue, 2.1% on the operating expense portion, and you compare that to the averages, the average revenue of 1.45% over the last 10 years and the average expense growth of 2.34%, that's almost 1% differential. So just the nature of school finances, which we've talked about many times before, the nature of school finances is that over the long term, your revenues do not keep pace with your expenses. And that's another reason why when you have years that you can tuck away a little bit of money and pad that cash reserve percentage, it's very favorable, because the long term, that's not going to happen. That differential of 0.9% on the trend on a $120 million budget, that's a deficit of just a little bit over $1 million. So that's always something to keep in mind, to not get too hasty to spend down the reserves too quickly. More in the details of the revenue, with the 1.8% increase, the main components of the increase is the local taxes going up 1.7 million in revenue, sales tax, and basic formula. So those are the three areas where we're getting additional revenue. If we drill down into those three items, on the local taxes, basically our assessed value, what I've initially budgeted is an increase of 7.8%, but there is a possibility that it could be an increase as much as 15% by the time we get to this final September numbers. When you look at that, the first 1.9%, well, if you compare that next to the CPI percentage, which is inflation, which is 1.9%, if you look at this, the differential, the first 1.9% of AV, which covers the inflation, CPI, that first 1.9% increase of AV plus your new construction is where you get your $1.7 million increase. So you get it, you get to capture all your CPI inflation plus your new construction. That's how you get your $1.7 million. Anything, any assessed value over and above the CPI, all that does is drive your tax rate down. So that's why when you see the AV is up 7.8%, which is more than the CPI of 1.9, that excess, that's why you see a blended rate tax decrease of 21 cents up there. Once again, the rates will not be finalized till September, and there is a possibility that the AV could be substantially greater increase. And if that does happen, we won't have any more revenue, but the tax rate will continue to decrease more. The biggest risk we have in this area is on the new construction. If that AV on the new construction fluctuates and goes down, then our revenue will go down, because that's part of what you capture in real revenue. But I would guess, my best guess is that the most exposure we might have would be maybe a $50,000 hit to the budget. The other two key items of basic formula and sales tax, DESE has targets out there, but they flat out will tell you in their memos that while this is possible, you need to be very cautious in your budgeting. So I'm not budgeting the entire DESE target on either one. About $270,000 less revenue than the DESE target on formula, and $50,000 less revenue on sales tax. So there's a possibility of upside, but there's also a possibility of downside if they end up reducing it more than what I've budgeted. So that's sort of where we're at on that piece. So then we go back to the expense side, and once again, our operating expenses are up 2.1 and total is up 2.3. If we dig down into the salary piece is up 2.8%, almost 1.9 million. The assumption on that right now is that that's going to cover salaries of one-step increase, channels, adding $400 to the base, includes 15 teacher retirements. It adds $190,000 to the classified pay schedules. And in the end, it's 2.8%. If you would take out the $400 to the teacher base and the classified pay, it would knock that down to a 2.1% increase in salaries, but the restructure bumps it on up to 2.8%. And at some point here, we'll be asking you to approve the teacher schedule, which is on one of the e-board schedules that's attached. On the benefits side, once again, we're doing well on our self-insurance fund. We're not anticipating raising the rates on that. The fund is continuing to do well so far this year, and that's good news. When we look at the service and supplies part of the budget, it's really notable that our budget this year is going to be a decrease of $115,000, which is a negative 0.6%. But when you look at that list of items, we're adding $132,000 of upgrades or new initiatives. We didn't have an election this current year, so we've got to add $70,000 back to the budget next year for that. Our early college program, we're renewing the bus lease for early childhood, and that adds $22,000, and then the demographer updates. So it's I think a pretty prudent budget when you're decreasing $115,000, but you're adding $132,000 of upgrades. Next, on the capital piece, just the highlights on this is the capital fund, similar to prior years, is the $1.75 million transfer. We're going to have an optional 1 cent tax levy from the general fund. This year we had 2 cents. We're taking that down 1 cent per year. And then we've got the Prop A 4 cents. And then, really just a quick second of celebration. As I was preparing this budget and summarizing the data, and, it's just data, and all of a sudden you step back and you realize on that capital line item, number 5, what our capital budget this year includes. It's 6 buses and vans and firewall. You can read on and on. And, it wasn't that long ago that our capital projects budget was $980,000. And now it's 3.1. So we've come a long way, and it's really a great feeling to see all of these things listed out. On the debt side, once again, a celebration. We're paying off 3 COPs this year. Next year in fiscal year 20, and in fiscal year 21, we'll pay off 3 more, and in fiscal year 22, we'll pay off the final COP. And that's sort of a celebration because that was targeted to be paid off in fiscal year 29 not too long ago. So we're making good progress on that. I think in the past few years, we've levied 51 cents for the COP fund. Because of the changes in the AV, right now I'm sort of targeting 48 cents for the COP fund, but that's really going to have to be sorted through and finalized in September. It really it sort of depends on the fluctuations of the AV and how that affects the dollars going into the fund. 1 cent of tax levy is in this year, fiscal year 19, 1 cent is equal to $177,000. And because of what we talked about with the tax rate going down and revenues going up and everything, in fiscal year 20, preliminarily on our budget, 1 cent goes from $177,000 to $191,000. And it could even go on up. If the AV goes up closer to 15%, it could be $205,000. So all of that affects how the money goes into all the different funds and buckets. And then the final note that I don't have noted on here is once we get through paying off all that debt and we get to fiscal year 22, we make the final payment. Right now, the rough projection, and it'll change, would be that we would probably have about $700,000 in the COP fund, and that would transfer over into the capital fund to feed our capital projects. So those are the main highlights of the budget. Did not figure you wanted me to go through all 60 pages. So somewhere in there, I don't know how the language is written on the agenda, but we do need to approve the teacher schedule, the teacher pay schedule.
Can I ask one quick question on the teacher schedule? Originally when we did the schedule, our old one had our BA, and I think it was BA plus 15 that stopped after like year 11 or 12. Do you remember that? That was 3 years ago. So there was like no increase after that. So whenever we put this schedule together, it continued on for BA and BA plus 15, where those normally just stopped. So is the 400 to the base adding on to even all of those? So it's across the board?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Motion to approve the 2019-2020 teacher salary schedule as presented.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thanks, Marshall. All right, we're up to open period for patron comments on non-agenda items. We did not have anyone sign up for that, so we can move to authorization to go into closed session.
Motion to enter a closed session meeting for the purpose of reading of minutes of previous meeting and corrections and approval of same and other items under the Missouri Revised Statute 610.021, subsections 1 through 21, and 610.022, subsections 1 through 6, hiring, firing, disciplining, or promoting particular employees, statute 610.021, 3, and preparation for negotiations with employee groups, statute 610.0219. Tori.
Yes.
Jean.
Yes. I'll second it.
Sorry. Tori.
Yes.
Jean. Kevin.
Yes.
Larry.
Yes.
Sam.
Yes.
Lisa.
Yes.
Peggy, yes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck with the geometry. You've seen one similar, you've seen